If you've paid any attention to what's happening with urban developments in Houston, you know that Mayor John Whitmire is tearing up improvements in the city for anyone who is not in a car. He's tearing up bike lanes, he's rolling back road improvements, he's actively reducing the effectiveness of transit in the city. I was recently in Houston. I want to talk a little bit about some of what I saw. I went and checked out some of the sites, talked to people in the area. Let's talk about a few of the things that they're rolling back. I want to mention that this is just a few of the projects that Mayor John Whitmire is suspected to or confirmed to have been involved in canceling during his term. I got a really long list from some of my Houston connections that I do not have nearly enough time to go investigate, but just a heads up that we are potentially looking at a very small fraction of the damage that's being done to Houston's cityscape. First project is the bike lane removal happening on Austin Street from Elgin to McGowan in Midtown. This is one of the first things that I had heard about, and the sinister thing about this project is that it was sold to the public as a drainage improvement, and then it was found that there were actually text messages revealed showed that the mayor was pressing specifically for the removal of the bike lane in this area, complaining that local biking advocates were quote-unquote bullies. And he also brought up that he had a certain single mother friend who works downtown who will get fired if she doesn't get to work on time, and who has an hour-and-a-half long commute. I'm not sure that removing a bike lane is going to fix anybody's hour-and-a-half long commute in Houston. Even Mayor Whitmire's totally real and not imaginary friend. But keep in mind, this project cost around $2 million to build when you account for the construction and the design of the project. And so this is money that is just getting completely thrown away so that we can have one less bike lane in a densely populated central part of the city. When I visited this location, I spoke to two locals who I didn't record on camera about the project. One of the locals was a cyclist himself and did not seem particularly happy with the loss of this bike path. Another local said that the bike path was interfering with parking and delivery drivers, which is a common vector of attack that I hear from anti-bike lane folks in any part of the country, whether it's in San Francisco or in Houston. Of course, this is in the middle of the urban core of the city, so it seems rather obvious to me that we should optimize for giving people more safe and comfortable ways of getting around outside of a motor vehicle, and not just, whether it's easy for you to, have an extra parking spot or call an Uber. I mentioned the Uber because this guy also complained about how apparently it was difficult to, call an Uber because you'd have to, walk to the other side of the block to get picked up instead of just right outside your door. The anti-bike lane local told me that there's another bike lane that runs in the same direction, a street over. And so for him, this was a good justification for removing the bike lane. Well, I went to check out this supposed alternative. So this is the street with the bike lane that the anti-Austin Street bike lane guy told me, well, they have this bike lane, so we don't need the other bike lane. But as you can see, there's a few issues here. The main one is that this bike lane is not protected. So giving up a protected bike lane and ending up with 0 protected bike lanes is just clearly worse. I can tell you as somebody who bikes places. And I think most people who bike regularly would agree with me. Also, this street seems like it has significantly less shade. Much nicer to bike on a street with some shade. And yeah, like I said, it just sucks that people see one bike lane and they think it's good enough. I mean, this is also a pretty narrow bike lane. The other one looked like it was probably wider. So also a higher chance of getting doored on this bike lane, probably because there's parking on one side of it. Just feels like a much worse deal. If you ask me if I could get the protected bike lane on Austin or this bike lane on Caroline, I'm gonna pick the protected bike lane on Austin every time. Sorry, but that just sucks. And I would be pissed if I lived in this area and my option for getting around just got tore up. The second project was supposed to be a safety upgrade road diet on North Main between Boundary and Airline. They were going to take 4 lanes, convert them to 3 lanes with a center turn lane, add protected bikeways and safer crossings. So So I'm here at North Main and Boundary, and I believe all the way from here to Airline Boulevard, I forget the name of it, they were going to do some street improvements to make the street safer for pedestrians and cyclists, but instead they are not. They're gonna leave it like this. It's a pretty depressing road, and there's a lot of development going on in this area. There is a transit line right here. I believe this would be called Edo or East Downtown. Houston people can correct me. And yeah, just another example of failing to deliver for people who are not inside of a motor vehicle at all times. One big complaint I have is that there's just so many 4-lane roads in Texas that should be 3-lane roads. There's so many roads that just feel so sketchy because they're almost like mini highways in the middle of the city. You'll be like not far outside of downtown and it immediately starts feeling like Mad Max on the roads because there's so many lanes. People are incentivized by the design of these roads to go so quickly, and it's a shame that we can't make some of these areas feel a little bit safer for pedestrians and cyclists and people in cars by just getting rid of a lane. And that's what's happening here. We are maintaining the status quo of Houston, and one of the things that keeps Houston feeling so far behind when it comes to urban planning and design. The next one is on Waugh Drive. This one is a smaller project from West Dallas to Allen Parkway. This project would have taken 2 lanes and converted them into protected bike lanes from West Dallas to Allen Parkway, plugging directly into Buffalo Bayou Park's trail network. So Mayor Whitmire stalled this. And if you go to this area, it's like this area could be so nice if it wasn't so car oriented. Spent some time walking around in the park there, but then as soon as you get out of the park and you say, want to walk over to this Whole Foods or bike over to this Whole Foods that's in the area, it just immediately becomes car chaos. What strikes me the most about this canceled improvement is that there's like 6 lanes of traffic. And then you've got like this tiny sidewalk. And then you have giant parking lots on either side. It's just like proportionately, you've given about 5% of the space to people not in cars, and then 95% for moving or stopped motor vehicles. It's just absurd. I saw a lot of people out walking and biking around even outside of the park, so it's clear that people live in this area, people want to be able to get around in this area, but instead of just having a little bit more space for people on bikes or walking, instead we just have to have 6 lanes here because Houston. This one is a bummer to me, especially because I really like Buffalo Bayou Park. I think that this area connects to a lot of cool areas in Houston, and yeah, this is just another example of missed potential and a lack of vision from Mayor Whitmire. And as if all of these road improvement projects weren't enough, as I've been creating this video, writing and researching, I found that there's been another huge negative development in Houston's urbanism and transit situation. Specifically, it appears that the mayor has directed Metro Rail to stop having signal priority in downtown Houston. The trains now stop at red lights like any other vehicle. That means a packed train that once sailed through Main Street now crawls, adding several minutes per trip and wrecking reliability. Riders and reporters have noticed longer travel times, and I've been seeing this all over Twitter. I even saw some folks who were like, hey, we can outrace the train on foot now. And this is just, again, I just want to repeat myself. It's a lack of vision. It's a lack of understanding of how transit is supposed to work. But, you know, it's not surprising coming from this mayor who is an extremely conservative Democrat in Texas who appears to not want Houston to be a modern city. It seems like they want to keep Houston in the Stone Age where your only reliable option is having a car, being stuck in traffic, and everybody else is essentially a second-class citizen. Advocates, operators, and even the Houston Chronicle's editorial board are calling to restore signal priority here. This is a huge policy reversal because the red line for Houston Metro Rail has enjoyed some kind of signal priority for like the past 21 years. Taken together, these rollbacks and cancellations of transit and urbanism improvements are a blueprint for how Houston stays a city stuck in the past and falls behind even further. Tearing out protected bike lanes, not building new bike lanes, not putting safety improvements in road diet. A city that is so marred by traffic deaths and accidents and lacking alternatives for people, even people who live, mind you, in the center of the fourth largest city in America by population. It's really a sad state of affairs. And I think it's one of the reasons that when people come from other countries and they visit Houston, they are shocked, I think, by the situation and how things work, because not even basic safety and transit and pedestrian improvements are made even in the center core areas of the city. We deserve a city that builds on what works, fixes what doesn't, and treats time, safety, and dignity for people outside of a car as non-negotiable. Unfortunately, I'm skeptical that we're going to get that under Mayor John Whitmire's leadership. It's a really sad state of affairs in Houston these days. Here in Austin, things are a little bit better, although we also have a federal government that is doing things like making us paint over rainbow crosswalks, because that's just so important, right? Thanks for watching. If you like this kind of content, please drop a like, subscribe, follow, and let me know what you think. Are you a Houston resident? Do you live somewhere else? Can you imagine this happening where you live? It's upsetting, but I guess it's the way things are for now. But yeah, I'll see you next time.